Alright, I'm doing a little bit of test geometry here, and this is driving me crazy. You know, basically use the offset surface. I was just kind of fucking around, and I selected all the corners to create these two offsets, and you can see they're blacks, they're fully defined. I went ahead and turned them into construction geometry, and then I wanted to center this object that I drew like up over here, so that was a nightmare. I don't know why this fundamental operation that's done all the time in CAD is so difficult to do in here. There should be some kind of obvious, you know, like macro or something that does that, you know. It's just unbelievable that, you know, because that's such a common operation. It's ridiculous to have to fiddle around with it. I mean, this thing should be smart enough to know how to do that. You know, there's probably another way of doing this, but I just don't know how to do it because it's, you know, there's just nothing to select here. So anyway, I had to draw these cross lines here, and I probably only needed one really. You know, and then I set the midpoint, you know, using the, you know, the midpoint thing here, you know, on this line and one of these lines, and then I had to go actually put a point in the middle where that midpoint is, although I may not have needed to do the midpoint command beforehand. In fact, let me see. Yeah, no, I mean, it knows where the midpoint of the line is, so I mean, I didn't actually need to find the midpoint that way, but I did have to draw a point on it. So, you know, which, like I said, you know, you can do just by clicking a point. But at any rate, and once I had that physical point that I could grab, then I could put a coincident relationship between these 2 points. And I probably just needed to do the find midpoint on like this line and then put an actual point like on this line, for example. Then I probably could have done the same operation, but since it obviously does know where the midpoint is, at any rate, then I was able to make them, you know, not concentric, but coincident. So, you know, that the midpoints lined up, and okay, that got us here. You know, but then, you know, I was like, okay, well, I needed to, you know, put some equal relations here just to make sure. I probably didn't need to put these in here, honestly, because they, you know, since we got horizontal and vertical relationships on these two, they should drive these as long as these others are defined. But anyway, what I had to do ultimately, though, to get this thing defined, you know, is go in and dimension this arc and just hit OK, and then see it's fully defined when you do that, as you can see down here. So but, you know, another way to do it would have been to dimension between the outer edges, you know, which is probably the appropriate way to do it. You know, because in the end, you know, you really want to know how big this hole is, and if I wanted to edit the sketch, you know, I'd want to edit these outside dimensions, not these, because I mean, I don't necessarily know these unless these are critical for some reason. But you know, these generally wouldn't be critical. You know, the critical aspects are this dimension here and this dimension here, and then what radius this is. You know, those are the critical dimensions. So you know, like if I was, you know, going to do an offset of this, oh, and two, this other guy didn't cover this, but, no, wait, I can't, okay, well, it doesn't work here for some reason. Oh, shit. Cancel out of this, but let me go select chain, okay, and then that'll select my object, and then you can go into that offset command and click off bidirectional, and let's say I wanted like a 50 mil tolerance, but I want it to be on the inside. create it like that. So I mean, if I had a mating part that had to go in there, you know, that's why those are the critical dimensions. And I'm going to go ahead and chain select this and convert it to construction geometry. But you know, the point is that if I needed something like that, you know, and see that's fully defined because it's an offset, by the way, offset of a fully defined object. But you know, I'd want to know these dimensions and the radius of the arc, you know, and that's what I'd want to edit, you know, if I were going to come back and change this somehow. But anyway, by me making this concentric, now if I change the shape of the cube, because this still, you know, has a relationship, you know, that offset entity, you know, when I offset the corners into this drawing, you know, still has a relationship to the edge of the cube. So that's why everything's fully defined. And so anyway, but you know, it's just kind of confusing. But that's what I had to go through to fully define the sketch. Now let's, you know, exit out of it, okay, and I should just be able to do like an extrude on it. And I guess I can go the other way. Raw, bingo. Okay, well I guess that doesn't work. Okay, let's do an extrude cut then and see if that works. No, it did work. It's just it didn't work. Okay, sketch. Let's try to do an extrude cut on it. See if that'll work. Now I'm cutting through, you know, there are other holes in here, so maybe that's part of the problem too. No, it works. Okay, so I guess there is a difference, you know. I mean, it's aggravating because, like on SolidWorks, I mean, Inventor, you know, you use extrude for both operations, and you know, because there's another way I could do this, supposedly, you know, I can go, you know, like I said, highlight my sketch, but then select chain, okay, and then I should be able to extrude it with a handle, but I guess, you know, here it is, way up here for some reason. Okay, and that, well, no, that extrusion fails. No, it did extrude it, it just extruded it inwardly. Let me edit it. Let's see. I mean, I don't know why it has it through all. Huh. Yeah, so that just filled in my hole is what it did. That's interesting. I wonder if that would produce some kind of fucked up geometry or something that would not 3D print or something. But at any rate, I guess that's why they have that, you know, so you can extrude it inward and cover a hole or something like that, because there are times you need to do that. So that's probably why they have two different extrude commands, I would imagine. You know, so it probably is. So anyway, that's nice. I think I learned something today. Through all both, up to next. So I could say up to next. Up to vertex, up to surface. Offset from surface. Up to body and midplane. Okay, this means up to next outer surface or something. I don't know what that means. Scroll both, doesn't do anything, so that means it'd be a failed thing. A vertex doesn't do anything. At the surface, it's going in the opposite direction. Offset from surface. That does up to body, midplane. Oh, this is extruding on both ways. Okay, so if that were in the middle, that would come in handy. For direction 2, apparently operation will succeed. Okay. Yep, there we go. But at any rate, you know, that's just you know, a little tidbit, you know, because now I'm done with that one first course, you know, I'm just playing around with some of this stuff, trying to apply some of what I learned anyway. You know, as it turns out, that guy's course, though, is kind of short. You know, it's not complete. So there's 16 videos he's leaving off, covering things like ribs and domes and so forth. But I can find that elsewhere on YouTube. And then in the second course is not complete either. I mean, it only covers like 30 videos, and there's another 46 that's not covered. So he doesn't really get into parts, you know, I mean, assemblies that much, you know, in the videos that are free. So, and of course he, you know, doesn't cover sheet metal. Yeah, that's a separate course, so, you know, there's nothing on sheet metal. You know, weldments is in that second course, but, you know, of course that's not included. So, you know, you got to go learn that elsewhere. That ought to be easy to find. And, you know, but doing assemblies too ought to be easy to find out there too, because, you know, again, that's a very, very common operation. It doesn't cover drafting at all. You got to buy a totally separate course for that. So, you know, which is ridiculous for $100 and something bucks, $120. You know, the drafting, man, that's, you know, it's not even that many videos either. So, you know, that's pretty common, but it'll be easy to find that. And then basic FEA, and I'll be able to find, because basic FEA is built into the default package. So, you know, the advanced FEA, like fluid flow and everything else, I don't know. And the circuit route and the router, he didn't cover routing at all either. You know, the routing system it has in here. Nor does he cover the visualization at all. You know, even if you bought his courses, all of them, you know, he doesn't cover all the complex, you know, working model aspect of this, which that's very sophisticated. It is. I mean, you know, I'm really, really surprised he didn't cover that. That's an advanced assembly topic. So, but at any rate, you know, but he does have an FEA course, but again, that's probably pretty basic FEA. It's probably not the premium stuff, but the, you know, the basic is still important. But again, I know you can find that out there somewhere too. But I guarantee you SolidWorks or somebody has courses for this, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I mean, if you pay $20,000 for a damn, you know, premium FEA package, you know, my God, the instructions they have built into it are still kind of limited. You know, it really doesn't tell you much, you know, in the courses they have. They do have several courses in that actual module, but, you know, tutors in that actual module, but still it's not complete. Just like the molding thing, the plastics molding part, you know, I mean, that's still like a $5,000 or $10,000 package, I think. Maybe, I don't remember what it was, but it wasn't cheap. Maybe it's a couple $1,000s, but still, you know, the training on that, the tutors on that are pathetic. You know, there's almost nothing to them. So, you know, certainly there's got to be more to it than what they show in their tutors, and I know that there's more to it, based on what I saw in their videos. from advertising it. So anyway,